everybody, it's Carm here, coming to you on a Saturday evening. It's been a little while, maybe a few weeks. Finally have a little downtime now, so I've been catching up on some videos and hoping to make some of my own. And have a little bit of a detour for this particular video. Something I've been meaning to do for quite some time, and that's simply to show some books. I know quite a few people in the VC are also book lovers. I know Derek and Chris have shown books, Roger and Fred. Noah did a book video recently, and of course Colin, who I know he does his book readings and just written and published a book recently. Someone who's really influenced and inspired me to do this, though, is Jeff, Glowing Double O Cabbage. I came across one of his earlier videos from, it must have been like 3 or 4 years ago, where he was showing books, kind of vibing with fellow VCers, and yeah, just inspired me a lot, and I want to show some of what I have. So I just grabbed about maybe 12.5 or so, mostly older favorites, as well as a small stack of books I just got in the last few days, and yeah, I just want to show them. I always felt that for me, books and music are really kind of go hand in hand. Reading and listening to music, and I've always kind of collected them, kind of side by side in a sense, or in together. So, and maybe some of you feel the same way. So, I'll just start right in. I'll go pretty quick because I have quite a bit here, and I won't really elaborate. I'll just say a few words about each one. The Center of the Cyclone, John C. Lilly, Autobiography of Inner Space. I would consider him kind of a Renaissance person of inner space, alterations of consciousness. Just a pioneering in the exploration of the mind in general. Also did a lot of work with dolphins in the early days, kind of finding the correlations between humans and dolphins. So very fascinating figure. One of my all-time favorites, Alan Watts, Behold a Spirit. He's from Great Britain. Comparative religions. Someone who's made Eastern philosophy accessible to a Western audience, with great wit and humor. And this is one of the earliest books I got of his. It's from the late 40s. And yeah, anything I find of his, actually his later work, is a little more accessible. But this is a pretty good intro, as well as anything else. Dick Sutphin's Lighting the Light Within. It's a metaphysical author. Another one kind of bridging Eastern and Western concepts, doing it in a very simple but not simplistic way. Not watered down, but very much kind of giving the basics of metaphysics. My dear friend Nancy turned me on to him many years ago, and I've picked up quite a bit over the years. Journeys Out of the Body, Robert A. Monroe. Early book on astral projection. He was a Virginia businessman who began having these really kind of heavy experiences of where he was leaving his body during sleep and actually observing himself from above and not knowing what to do about it. Came from a very rigid scientific background, but eventually became a pioneer in this field, and I think the Monroe Institute still running to this day, some 20 years after his passing. The Flight of the Eagle, J. Krishnamurti, great East Indian philosopher, originally associated with the Theosophical Society, eventually went off on his own. A lot of his philosophy, from what I could tell, is centered on self-awareness and awareness of the various ways in which we're conditioned, whether it's by society or culture or our elders, and just being aware of it from within yourself. So, someone who I've been a long time admirer of. Somewhat related figure who I really like, Barry Stevens, Burst Out Laughing. He's a Gestalt therapist who was influenced a lot by Krishnamurti, as well as Native American philosophy and Zen Buddhism. This is part memoir. There's stories. There's philosophy, a great deal in the book, written in very kind of a free form style. She also has another book called Don't Push the River, which I can't find at the moment. I might have stored it away. But yeah, just a very enjoyable read. You could pick, open it up at any page, and you never feel like you've lost anything. The Elder Brother, a biography of Charles Webster Leadbeater. Mentioning the Theosophical Society before, he was an early pioneer in that school. He was at one time a clergyman, early metaphysical philosopher, got into very heavy esoteric philosophy and just ways of looking at things. The Inner Life is another book he has written. This is a great biography of him, one of the best memoirs I've read, or biographies in general that I've read. I read it about 5 years ago. He's a rather controversial figure too, but if you're interested in that kind of early, the bridging of East and West, he's a great figure to look to. Okay, lest you all wonder that I'm into nothing but heavy and ponderous reading, I've got a few shifting gears, some comedy books here. Shifting gears quite dramatically. Getting Even by Woody Allen. Of course, you all know Woody Allen. These are like early skits, kind of like little plays that he did, and just jokes in general, from the early to mid 70s. This is the first book I got of his, Without Feathers, and kind of more of the same. So always enjoyable for a laugh. Yeah, this one for quite a long time. I mentioned Dick Sutphin before. This is a very early book of his, which isn't metaphysics, nor poetry, which he's also written. And I just got this in the mail a couple days ago. Yeah, Sex, Liquor, Tobacco, and Candy are bad for you. Sounds like it's sort of like debunking myths from maybe like the 19th century. From what I can tell, just kind of the way they thought about health and, those kind of relations back then. And just, so I'm not sure what it's all about, so it's pretty interesting. Definitely a departure for him. Two Serious Ladies by Jane Bowles. She was the wife of Paul Bowles, who was a writer and a musician, composer. This is a novel about, well, two ladies who kind of came from the upper class, who I guess it sounded like they wanted to sow their wild oats, and kind of got into all the misadventures along the way. I read this about at least 10 years ago and really enjoyed it, but I don't really remember it. It had been so long, so I'll have to add this to the to-be reread pile. Let's see, The Letters of William S. Burroughs. Really kind of related to the Bowles in a sense. Yeah, very pioneering writer, did incredible things with language. These are correspondences between, a lot of it's between him and Allen Ginsberg, the poet, as well as others. And I like these kind of books because they give you an insight into their life and philosophy, and just the kind of the context of the time. So they're very neat. With William Burroughs, Report from the Bunker. This is kind of that was written by Victor Bockris. Kind of tells, there's anecdotes, there's interview snippets about the time when he was living in New York during, it was the mid-70s to the early 80s, before he eventually went on to Lawrence, Kansas, which was where he lived his final years. But that's kind of just an interesting, just kind of report on the time, what he was going through. He's kind of involved in the punk scene to some degree. He's kind of considered, a real progenitor of the punks, I guess, in a sense. So they got a few poetry books here. And once again, they have another Sutphin book. Yeah, did metaphysics, comedy, and poetry. Quite a versatile fellow. Yeah, 1970 to 85. It's kind of an anthology of his early work. I'm not sure if he still does poetry now. Gregory Corso, Herald of the Autochthonic Spirit. He's one of the early beat poets. Very anarchistic, even by those standards. I think he only had like a 6th grade education, but was in prison as a very young man, and supposedly said he read many, if not all, the books in the library, and educated himself, and he has an incredible way with words. Very deft in his way of of writing. A Coney Island of the Mind, poems by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Started City Lights Publishing early on. It was the first all-paperback bookstore, which still goes to this day. And I believe he's still living now. It's about 95 now, I think. So it was an early collection of his poems. This is actually another City Lights publication. Peter Orlovsky. I love this title. Clean Asshole Poems and Smiling Vegetable Songs. He was Allen Ginsberg's partner, and I don't think he wrote a great deal, or at least published a great deal, but yeah, this is an early City Lights. Kind of an expert in kind of long form prose and poetry. It's quite interesting. The poetry is just as colorful as the title is. We are all children searching for love, Leonard Nimoy. Before I saw this, I didn't even know he wrote poetry. Of course, we know him as Spock and as the host of In Search Of, great old TV show. But the poems are rather simple and kind of rather syrupy, but it was nice coming across this and yeah, having not even known about it. And I've got a couple of, not a real big sports fan, but I've always been a basketball fan since I was about 11 years old. And I found a couple of these over the summer. The Jordan Rules, written by Sam Smith. Kind of revealing aspects of Michael Jordan. I'm sure many of you, if not all, know him. The Chicago Bulls. Aspects of him that may not have been well known at the time. This is around, I think, around the time of their first or second championship, early 90s. So very interesting. And Bull Session. Johnny Kerr and Terry Pluto. He was the very first coach of the Chicago Bulls. He was an expansion team back in the 60s, and it was their announcer from the mid-70s until his passing in, I believe it was 2009. And yeah, he was just kind of reminiscing about his time with the team, and a little bit about his life in general, so it was quite enjoyable. And I think that's it for some of the older books. The stack I have here were just picked up recently. Another basketball book, Hang Time, Bob Greene. Kind of similar to the Sam Smith book, although he was on more intimate terms with Jordan, kind of hanging out with him, and I just started on this yesterday. But yeah, just kind of getting to know him, just the aspects of him that the greater public didn't know. Correspondence and Documents, 1901 to 1925. It's by Rudolf Steiner, someone else who was associated with the Theosophical Society, and another kind of Renaissance person of philosophy and the spirit, very active in education, and someone who I need to delve further into. I just got this recently, so these are all seem mainly comprised of letters. So again, another way of getting to know someone before I dive into the heavier work. Mentioning Burroughs before, The Last Museum, novel by Brian Gysin. They work together on the cut-up method, where you cut through pages of text and rearrange them and get kind of a whole new flow of ideas. He was an author himself and a painter and a variety of different disciplines. So this will be really interesting to get into. And I don't know how much did he publish a great deal. Bill Russell, Red and Me. Bill Russell of the Boston Celtics and the one-time coach of the Celtics. And, he was general manager at one time. Just about the relationship and friendship they had over the years. Always very close. Read our back past recently, so this will be really nice. See, just a few more here. Soul Sounds, Mourning the Tears of Truth, Mary Summerrain. It's a Native American author. I think this is told in kind of diary form of her life during the early 90s. Considered kind of a modern spiritual philosopher. So that should be very, very nice. And once again, Annie Besant, an autobiography. At one time, she was a president of the Theosophical Society. She was very active early on in the labor movement of the late 19th, early 20th century. and women's rights in general. A very pioneering woman, and also early on kind of bridging the gap between Eastern and Western philosophy, and just brought together a lot of people of that time. So I'll be looking forward to getting into this. And finally here, it's quite a few books. I didn't even realize. Yeah, I just got this yesterday. The Seven Mountains of Thomas Merton. He was a Catholic Trappist monk, philosopher, writer, poet, who also, I think he kind of specialized in interfaith, you know, kind of bringing together people of different backgrounds, different faiths, different you know, disciplines. A beautiful illustration of him on the back there. Passed away much too young, but yeah, this is a biography. You can see quite a tome here. Actually going out of town next month, so this will be great to, you know, take on the plane. It'll be quite a bit to absorb, so, you know, should be fascinating. And yeah, that's what I have for now. Yeah, I, you know, enjoyed sharing these. You know, like to do more of these from time to time. Unless nobody likes this video, then, you know, I'll keep it to myself from now on. But yeah, I just, you know, wanted to share some of these, another aspect of what I'm into, and some of you I invite to, you know, if you're into books as well, you know, do it on vinyl here and there. You know, I know Roger Coleman was doing a non-vinyl, showing CDs and other formats, but I'd even say, yeah, you know, show some books. And I have quite a few music books, which you notice I didn't show any during this video, but I'll do that for a future video for sure. And I might have mentioned Half Price Books before. I got some of these books yesterday. I also, of course, got some records and CDs, which I'll show in a video soon. And before I forget, well, you could hear it in the background. Let's see, Gary Hayden, Impressions of a Year. The fellow on YouTube goes under the name G. Lee. Began commenting on my videos. Very nice comments, telling me how much he liked the music I had in the background and what I was showing, and that we shared a lot of music in common. And asked me if he could send me a CD of his music, just for free, just to see what I thought of it. And this is what's playing. And yeah, Gary, if you're watching, I'm enjoying this very, very much. Did a very good job on this. Yeah, you can see it goes. The titles are the months of the year. The instrumentation, the winter months, it seems to be mostly electronic. And then I think we're still in the winter months here, in the third cut. And then as it goes, it's more acoustically oriented, almost tribal sounding, very ethnic, and then kind of goes back into a mixture of the two. We're going to see some of the instrumentation here. He also included 2 copies of the album. You see some of the instrumentation there, quite varied. So yeah, enjoying this very much. Try to remember to leave a link to his channel. He doesn't really seem to do vinyl videos per se. Mostly just puts up his own music, you know, excerpts from those. So yeah, quite enjoyable. So again, very good job, and you know, thank you for sending this to me. That's very nice stuff. So yeah, that'll do it for now. Just wanted to share these again. I hope you're all well, and you hope to see, you know, other kinds of things from you all as well. Until next time, peace, love, and joy.